This tutorial is about the integrity of the database and making the database a lot more readable and a lot more usable for you when you're trying to figure out trends. What we can do with the database with these tools is remove steps and remove spikes without affecting the integrity of the database. So we're not actually changing any data. All we're doing is tagging the data so that we can view it without a step, or we can view it without a spike, and we can also bring it back and look at it in the original data, or view it without the spikes. A lot of steps in data are due to many causes. Many are due to changes in control, or changes in or perhaps the prism actually was knocked. It could have been knocked by a rock rolling down the rill, and even though it's been picked up as a rill movement, it certainly changes the trend of the whole graph. So if we look at this graph that we're looking at here now, we're looking at it in XYZ mode. So also there's one thing to remember, that a step can be in XYZ, or it can be in distance. It can be in both these things. So we can have a very good looking XYZ graph but a terrible looking, or a step in the distance graph, and vice versa. So in this case we're going to remove this step in the XYZ, and all we have to do is pick up one of these points. What we do is pick up the second point in the step, and what we'll do is just hover over it. Once we hover over the point, then we can use the point menu by using your right hand button on the mouse, and then simply go to remove step. We can put a reason for that removal of the step. We can put say control move, or you can put nothing there, it doesn't really matter. So now in that point, all 3 points, it didn't matter which point we grabbed in this situation, because they're all the same point. It's just simply an XYZ of the same point. And we've got now we have a step holder. So if we go into put the mouse into a blank part and bring up the main menu by again clicking on the right mouse button, we can now hide steps. So when we hide the step, straight away we get a totally different view of the graph. And even though it may not be so dramatic, in some instances where those steps are huge, it is quite dramatic. So if we go show steps, hide steps, the data's still there. But in this particular point, the graph also, we can show the events, and this is the control movement on this particular step. So we can show the step, and we have this events also, or we can hide the step, and certainly we can hide the events. So this is a very, very powerful tool, very powerful tool. We could look at some other ones. We'll go to say distance, slope distance, and have a look at that, how it affects things. We'll go to a different cluster. Well, we've got one right here. We've got a step in the data here, and we've decided to remove that step. Okay, now we have to pick up the second point in the step. Now there's so many points there, we don't know what is what, so we'll zoom in on the second point till it's clear. We have a clear point, hover over it, right click, remove step. This time we won't bother about putting in a tag or a reason. We'll just go OK. Then we'll remove the zoom and go back to where it normally would be. Show steps. Hide steps. Isn't that lovely? I mean, if you wanted to, you could move all this up into the main body of the data, but it's probably going a bit too far. The step placeholder is shown as a triangle, and it will be there somewhere. If we show the step, then it becomes more obvious where it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, that just shows the power of this software to be able to remove these worrisome steps. You know, those graphs that have such huge steps in them that you don't know what it's doing. It just looks like it's flatlining. Once you remove the step, it all makes sense. So this is just to show the power of removing removing spikes or single points. If we hover over the point that we wish to remove, we simply right click to bring up the include or exclude point, and we're going to exclude the point. It brings up a marked point. Now to remove it, we simply hide marked points. If we want to show all points, simply show all points. Hide marked points, hide marked points. So the data is still there, the integrity of the database is still fine, but we've made the graph look a lot easier as far as trying to judge where the trend is going.